thank you for tuning in. I want to welcome you to the podcast with Dallas Maxwell, a.k.a. the Carpenter of Consciousness, a.k.a. the Dot Connector, a.k.a. the Mind Mechanic, building minds one podcast at a time. And so what happens in life is that we have these events, these situations, these scenarios, these scenes that create what I call dots, right? And if you were a child and you remember grade school, you used to play connect dots. I used to love it because I love blueprints and I like steps and I like recipes, right? And so when you connect these dots, you can see a picture. And when we connect the dots, the experiences of our lives, we see the picture that is our life. And so here's the thing, and what we're doing, if we don't like what that picture does, what that picture looks like once we connect the dots, then all we need to do is go back, refine, design, and reassign the numbers to those dots so we can create the picture that is a life that we love. And that's what we're going to be doing on this podcast. So as an example, you hear the saying, they say, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life. See, so I want to take it to the limit and take it to another level, sky's the limit, and say, if you teach a man how to build his own pole and find his own bait, you've given him his independence. That's what we're doing here. And in addition to that, we're going to be offering not just content. Everybody has content, but we're going to accompany that content with context. I always say content without context equals confusion every time. I'm going to run that back. Content, information without context, proper application, how it fits together equals confusion. And if you ever want to be confused, just process content without context. So what we're going to be doing is contextualizing these principles, these ideas, so they can make it make sense to you in a simple way. And this is what I call perspective. I'll give you an example, right? So I was talking to my man about this the other day. And, you know, the way my brain works, I'm very curious as to how things work. You know, I was the child that was taking the vacuum cleaner apart. I was the kid that you call over on Christmas to ask them to put together the wall unit. So I like the way things are made. I'm a builder. I build things. My background is I was a professional barber for years, which involves design and creation, which I've always been in that business. I'm a general contractor now. And whether it's building things physically or building minds or executing recipes or blueprints, I'm fascinated with the process by which things come from root to fruit, how it comes about, right? And so I analyze things with that mind. And I was talking to my man the other day about the squirrel. We're going to call it the squirrel perspective, right? You're never going to forget this, right? So when you drive down the street, I don't know if you've ever hit a squirrel before. The odds got to be pretty, to hit a squirrel in your car, but it can be done. I've actually hit squirrels before. I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. So I got to thinking, right? I'm like, yo, cars are so big and they're so loud. How in the hell are you getting hit by a car as a squirrel? Like me wanting to interview the squirrel. Like, yo, you can do things I can do. I can't do. You can jump from wires and jump from trees. I know how to not get hit and killed by a car. How come you can't do that when you appear to have things that I can't? Watch this. I'm going to bring it home. So this is context and perspective. Put a pin in the perspective for a second. Squirrel vision. I'm going to come back to that, right? I'm going to give you a story, right, with my daughter. And this happened years ago. And this is what we're going to be doing. This is my gift. And I want to share it. So my daughter wanted something and she asked my wife for it. And at the time, my wife was kind of upset about something or whatever. And she kind of yelled at her. Now I'm watching the scene, right? I'm knowing what my daughter wants and what she means, but I'm also knowing what my wife is processing and what she sees, right? So she said something to her, whatever. My daughter ends up crying. She must have been like 5-6 years old, right? So boom, I go into her room just to give her some context. Content without context equals confused. My daughter was in her room confused about what just happened because she did not have the gift of context. And so she's crying. I can't let an injustice go down like that. So I'm like, let me go on ahead and build a bridge and bridge this gap and stop and get this water flowing again, right? So I went in there and I was like, sweetheart, what's going on? She's like, oh, mommy's mad at me. She just, all I wanted to do was blah, 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 blah. Insert kid like crying or whatever. And I already knew what it was. I already knew what time it was. I knew what I knew what my wife was thinking. I knew what she thought. And I knew how my daughter experienced it. So I said, sweetheart, I said, let me show you something. I had this little walkie-talkie, right? And I handed it to her. I said, what do you see? What color do you see? I said, black. She said black, right? I said, no. She's like, it's black. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's black. I said, let me show you something. I flipped the walkie-talkie around to the other side, and it was gray. And she did the little perplexed face. This is when I reeled it in. I got the hook. Boom. I'm about to reel this thing in. Boom. I said, so here's what happens, sweetheart. I said, oftentimes in life, we are looking at the same thing in a different way. And so your mom, Grayside, thought that you hadn't done what you were supposed to be doing and you didn't listen to her. And now she has to tell you something that she told you repeatedly again because she Grayside with it. You're just showing her the art project that you just finished and you're very, very excited. And to you, your mother's response was the opposite of what you thought you would get from what you did, and now you're hurt. I said, so what we got to do as human beings is we got to take the responsibility of context so we can have the kind of communication that we want. Because a lot of times what happens in communication, we just miss each other because we're coming from different places, right? And so by the end of it, I showed her that we're looking at the same thing. And we could have got into an argument. Gray side, black side. No, you're wrong. I'm right. Instead, what we don't do as humans is, bro, come over here. Let me show you something. Come over here and look at this. Oh, damn, I see what you're seeing. So that is context. In that moment, set her free. And her face turned from a crying little girl to an enlightened little mini woman. Bring the squirrel back. So boom. I'm like, yo, cars, you can hear them a mile away. Why are you getting hit by squirrels? Squirrel, why are you getting hit by trucks when you're a damn gymnast? And then one day, I thought about it. I was like, let me go do some research on this. Let me do some field work, right? And I'm a tall guy, right? I'm 6'3". So I went and I saw a squirrel dead in the street, right? And I'm like, let me have some compassion. Let me have some empathy. Let me try to understand what's going on. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is connected, right? So I got out of my car. This is the weird type of stuff that I do. This is how I go to the field to get my information. I got outside of the car and I put my face on the concrete and I looked down the road. And when I put my face on the concrete and looked down on the road, I instantly had squirrel vision. Not a 6'3" man's vision, but squirrel vision. And when I looked down the side of the street as a squirrel, I realized that as a squirrel, you can't see the car until it's right on you. And also, when you look through your nature book as a squirrel, you'd be like bears, birds, they don't got trucks in it. It's the same way flies, they don't know about glass. You see a fly, boom. And as a human, you're like, damn, bro, why don't you just not go through that way? I just opened up the screen for you, but a fly just can't get over, bang, bang. It can't get over glass. A squirrel can't see as a human because it's on the ground. And in that moment, I realized it solidified what I already understand and what I want to bring to people, which is context. Content without context equals confusion. And perspective. It was never, ever what we were looking at. It was always how we look at it. And that, my friends, is a choice. So context without content equals confusion. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life, but he's still dependent because he needs a pole and he can't find his own bait. The thing is that I want to finish this thing out, man. We live in a world of not just lies, flip the coin, but half-truths. And if all the pieces aren't in the box, you can't put the thing together. So, teach a man how to fish, show a man how to make his own pole, find his own bait, and you can feed him for life. So in the podcast, that is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be adding context to content. We're going to be taking commonly understood principles that you deal with in life, and we're going to be transferring them into other areas where we're confused because it's all connected. It's all the same game. Sometimes they change the name, but it's the same. And we're going to bring that together and create a community where people that want to grow and evolve into their highest self can do that through these principles and tools. So like I'll do episodes where I'm just talking about particular concepts or things that I feel will help people that have helped me and push the conversation forward. You know, you think about it like this is how I relate to myself, right? You know, I had the privilege of watching Michael Jordan play basketball live, right? And I've only been to 2 basketball live games in my life. One was back in the day. I think it was Utah Jazz versus the Hawks, and I got to see Stockton and Malone play, which was the nastiest tag team duo. And then I also got to see a game when Mike Jordan was playing for the Wizards or whatever, right? So I'm watching him play, right? He's a little older, but he's still Jordan, and he's still nice. I told my brother, I was like, dude, I'm like, him playing is like having a coach on the court because he's not thinking just like a player. He's thinking like a wise coach, but still has the energy to do it. So the things that I'm teaching, the community that we're creating is stuff that I'm living real time, learn from it, but doing it with you. If I'm the general and I ask you to do 100 push-ups, I'm fresh off 1,000. That's my philosophy. So I'm going through this and I want to create this environment where people can kind of tap in and open up. And another thing, if I'm keeping it real is that, I'm keeping it real, is that, you know, for men, and I speak about men a lot because, and I say men, I'm talking about men, but I'm also talking about mankind because I'm a man, but I feel like I am man. And when I say I am man, I mean, like Ho said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. When I say I'm man, I'm mankind. I feel very deeply. I can put myself in someone else's shoes, which is why I can see the confusion of my wife and know what she's frustrated at and see why my daughter was off and see not intervening and connecting those dots. My wife would have been frustrated and just thought that her daughter was not listening. And my daughter would have thought mommy's mean and she doesn't care about what's important to me. So I get a kick out of that. I get a joy out of just moving the little stick in the water so the water can flow freely. This is what my passion is. And I believe, and I don't believe, I kind of know this. I'd be open up the conversation. My mission in life is to cure the world of what I believe is the most debilitating disease that's ever plagued mankind. And it's at the core of every single problem that we have. And that disease is ignorance, right? And ignorance is not stupid. It's just not knowing, lack of knowledge. If you seen a dude trying to get into his house with a key and he was smacking the key up against the lock, you'd be like, huh. Some people might call him stupid. Some people might be like, everybody knows that that's not how you do it. He don't. So he's got the key. He's got the lock. He doesn't know how to apply that. He is ignorant. There is something that he needs to know that is outside of his awareness. This is what I'm doing. And so we do that by creating these tools, which is what I'm doing, which is these philosophical tools. So your philosophy is your navigational system, right? Your philosophy is the paradigm by which you look at your world. It's how you equate your true north, your south, your east and west. It's how you get around. It's not a map. So in this process of the podcast, by bringing these episodes and these guest speakers that I'm going to have, people that I'm going to interview, it's going to be all in the same theme, is that we're going to be able to use these principles to apply them to our life in an actionable way, and it's going to be easy to understand. So that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, the inspiration came for the podcast. I'm going to tell you the story how it came about, because I actually shot the first episode or recorded the first episode actually 3 years ago. And some of you watching this right now may have noticed that episode 2 already came out. If you're already following the podcast, all those are the first episodes. So I'm going to address two things: inspiration and why episode 1 came after episode 2. So episode 2, which I released a couple of days ago, that came out of a conversation that I had with a mentor of mine. And if you watch that episode, you'll see it. But what it was deeper for me, it was me testing my own speed of implementation. Damn, I could go so many places with this. So Mel Robbins, she has a book called The 5-Second Rule, Game Changer. If you haven't read it, go get it. And then one of my mentors, JT Fox, he was talking and I was listening to him, and he said, one of the things that sets me apart as an entrepreneur, and he's the number one wealth coach in the world, I believe, and he said, is my speed of implementation, right? A lot of times we have ideas, i.e. 5-second rule. I don't got time to break that down, but go look up the 5-second rule with Mel Robbins. Is that we have these ideas and we have these things that we want to execute on. And then if we don't pull the trigger fast enough, our brain will start preventing us from executing on the things that we want to execute. Because you got to understand, our brains are wired for a different time. So if you decide to take a chance, or you got an idea for a business or something that you want to do, your physiology, your biology knows that that's a risk, right? And it's trying to save you. It thinks that you starting a business or having an idea that you want to execute on, your brain thinks that you're about to be chased by a wildebeest. It's like, yo, we got to get out of here, which is why you got to pull the trigger fast, or you just end up putting the gun right back in the holster, right? So episode 2 was, I'm fed up. I was like, I got to get an editor. I got to get people to do this. I had my man make the beat for me. And I was coming up with all of these intellectual barriers to stop me from jumping off the diving board. So the reason why episode 2 came out first is because I'm just going, man. I'm just do this. End up editing myself, end up putting everything together. I just had to go to prove it to myself. And I'm going to narrate to you so you can maybe, if somebody can get some value from that. So that's why episode 2 happened, because I was practicing my own speed of implementation. But as far as this goes, in episode 1, I just kind of want to set the tone for what we're going to be talking about and where we're headed with this podcast. I call it the podcast because it's funny. I actually had a different name that I started with, and I had to live a little bit, and I had to kind of figure out how I wanted to go through this, because I needed to be able to bring my full self to the table. Pro tip: you're doing your calling and what you're supposed to do if no part of you is left out. I'm going to run that back. If you ever want to know how to find your calling, and it ain't easy, you think about, what is it that I'm supposed to do, that I'm suited to do? If you have fins, you probably don't want to be in the air. You probably want to be doing a water thing. When you find your true purpose, no aspect of you will be left out. And the reason why this is counter to what we're taught is that most people that I know, and even myself is guilty of it, live very fragmented, one-dimensional lives, right? Which means we can't bring our full selves to the table. We just deal with aspects of ourselves. And the problem with dealing with aspects of ourselves and not addressing every component of ourselves is that those pieces of ourselves that we don't explore, that we don't dedicate some time and energy, they start to die in us. And what's even deeper than that is that they start to die. They actually atrophy the parts of us that we are doing. Traditionally, and I was talking to my man about this the other day, traditionally, like as men, and I'm gonna break this whole barrier down, we have traditional specific roles, right? And I'm gonna tie this into changing the name of the podcast, is that these roles have us conform to something that we're not really, and we don't have the courage to stand up and say who we are, because quite frankly, most of us don't know, and we aren't on this journey of self-discovery and self-actualization, defining our authentic self, living from soul. And when I say living from soul, I'm saying living from heart. Now, this is big for me to be saying, because for me, I'm a mind person, right? So I always felt comfortable in the mind. And having a big heart, you're really just scared to get hurt, right? And so you're half living. You're living from mind. You're not living from heart. It's like people say, oh, what's better, a mom or a dad? Both. What's better, lungs or a heart? Kind of both. What's better, a brain or your, lungs? Both. What's better, an engine or a chassis? Both. There's a system, the way that things work together, so we're not just adding, but we're multiplying. Back to bringing full self to the table. So, in the title of the podcast, when I was on Facebook, I started out my thing as Facebook the Small Business Dad, right? Because I figured, like, yeah, I'm a small business owner, I'm a dad, and that's who I am. But it's only an aspect of myself. And when I put that suit on, at first it was fly. I was wearing a suit. I'm like, yeah, this fits. This is tailored. But then it started getting too tight because I started working on other muscles. I'm using metaphors. I'm using analogies. When I say other muscles, I started watering different aspects of myself and realizing that outfit didn't fit anymore. And a lot of times the metaphoric outfit that we chose to wear that we call our suit in life. I'm not talking about real suits. And you got to understand, most of us didn't even create this outfit that we were wearing. Our neighborhood, our parents, our fears created this outfit. I want to help liberate people because at the end of the day, man, it's about freedom. Some people seek security. I want to be free. I'm looking for freedom fighters, people that want to get free. That's what this podcast is going to be about. So boom, back to the other name. So the original name was Root to Fruits, right? Because the fruits of life, define them as what you want. Earl Nightingale teaches that the definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And I thought that was one of the coldest definitions ever. Because most people make success mean this one thing. Oh, it's money. Or let's say something dumb like the money is the root of all labor. Bro, you left out the love part, man. Content without context equals confusion. So root to fruits. The concept is simple. If you define the fruits, they say the fruits of your labor, the fruits that you want in your life, all you got to do is trace that thing back to the root and be active on the cause side, root side, seed side, and then the fruit side, the leaf side is a natural byproduct. So what I want to do is expose these natural, simple laws that are right in front of our face, and we understand them in other aspects of our life, but we just can't connect the dots to every aspect of our life. So I was like, root to fruits. That's the concept. Seeds to leaves, roots to fruits, foundation, structure. I loved it, but I was like, damn, if I do roots to fruits, people are going to think I'm doing a gardening show. So I couldn't risk that. The message is too important to let anything get in the way. So and on top of that, the whole thing with the small business dad, I was like, it's too tight, man. I don't just want to talk about that. I want to talk about other things because, again, if we're talking about living a holistic life, if we're talking about bringing our authentic full self to the table, we got to address every muscle. It's funny. I started out this new workout plan. I'm going to bring my man on. We're going to talk about it later, right? And when you start a plan, you start realizing all of your deficits and all those little auxiliary muscles that need help to support the bigger muscles that is really your real passion. This is it, man. What I do and what I've always loved to do, and this has been a long time coming, which is why I'm so excited about it, is showing people the mirror and showing them who they really are, not what they thought they are. That's the joy that I love in life. So root to fruits. We're not giving out poles because then you got to rent the pole from me. Yeah, sure, you're not a fish, but you got to come to me and pay pole tax, so you don't have any freedom. We're going to show how to build our own poles and create a life from scratch. I was telling my homeboy, I said, listen, man, the restaurant, the metaphorical proverbial restaurant of the real world, the kingdom, is blank. And it comes with a pen. You go into a restaurant, everybody got peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You're like, damn, why everybody got peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And then you look at the menu and all it says is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's a lie. You can write in what you want on the menu. And that's what I want people to understand. That's what I want people to know. So let me go. So I'm all over the place, but I'm not. So the inspiration. So I never forget this. It was my daughter's birthday. It was probably like 5 to 7 years old, right? And, when I come home from work, I used to try to come into my daughter's room, at least rap with her about the day, whatever happened or whatever. Oh, parents, by the way, too. The most valuable time with your kids, and I don't care how busy you are, is that if you can carve out a couple of minutes in the morning, and if you can carve out a couple of minutes at night to just recap with your kids, find out where their head's at, what's going on in school, it will pay dividends exponentially. So I tried to do that as much as I could. I mean, I'm not going to go and wake my kids up, but I tried to do that. And so I was doing that kind of before bedtime, story time talk with my daughter, and it was her birthday, right? And I was like, "What's up, sweetheart? You said you don't seem, you seem a little off or whatever." And she said, "Actually, I'm kind of sad." I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Why are you sad?" She's like, "Well, I don't want to get older. I don't want to grow up." I was like, "I feel you." You know what I'm saying? This adult, man, it ain't what it's cracked up to be. It ain't nothing but a bunch of envelopes with your name on it. It ain't as fun as you thought it was when I was a kid. I went off on a tangent. I feel you, Peter Pan. Peter Pan didn't want to grow up. But I was like, hold on. She said, but she still had something left. I left some meat on the bone. So I say, well, why you say that? She said, because I don't want to grow up. And then she hit me with this. She was like, because adults aren't happy. You think about that movie with Will Smith, The Pursuit of Happiness, man. You live enough life, and if you don't come to it, you come to the point when you're going through the motions and you're on the hamster wheel doing the things, right? At some point, you ask yourself, what the hell is the point, man? I never forget one of my favorite Jay-Z songs. I don't even know the damn name of it now. I'm thinking about it. But the hook goes, what's the meaning? What's the meaning of life? See, I can't just be going through the motions, man. And I don't think everybody else wants to go through the motions. So she said adults aren't happy. Now, you got to understand, this lesson, this what she's saying is time release. So the surface, the flag was adults aren't happy. That's the thesis statement. Now, my breakdown mind, I start taking it apart. And I'm like, whoa, adults aren't happy. I was like, Dallas, you're the number one influence in this girl's life next to her mom. She just told you adults aren't happy. Where'd she get that from? Me. Because I wasn't happy. And my daughter saw that. And she was like, if being an adult is about being a know-it-all, going through the motions, do as I say, not as I do, and then you don't even feel good about it, that's whack. I'm straight on it. She's like, I'm going to just roll this 5-year-old thing. If that's what I got to look for, I'm good. And it got me to thinking. And I told her, I said, well, sweetheart, I said, well, maybe that's a part of what your mission is. To remind people that I never forgot. Like my daughter is, Jay-Z said it took for my daughter to be born to see through a woman's eyes, right? I grew up in a very male, masculine, dominated environment. And I didn't have that sensitivity to that side of me that's in me. We have all these aspects in me. We just need something to pull it out. I'm going to be doing that too. Took for my daughter to be going to see through a woman's eyes. And she was always so intuitive emotionally, which is why I think women are on another level in terms of emotional intelligence. We're all out here trying to be equal all the time, man. Yeah, you're equal in the eyes of God in terms of your level of importance, but we ain't equal. Because everybody does something that's different that adds to the process. They say the first phase is independence, right? I mean, dependence. You're dependent on your parents. You're dependent on other resources for your life. And then the second phase is independence, which is where most people stop at. I'm independent. I can do it on my own. Okay, congratulations, you're an adult. The final level is interdependence, where we realize that what we can produce is limited by our ability to collaborate and work together. That's the final level. That's what I want to get it to. So when my daughter said, "Adults aren't happy," and while I'm eating the vegetables of that myself, like, damn, you got that from me. I basically said to her, like, that's the loftiest goal that I've ever heard, and it came from my 5-year-old, is to pursue your bliss. What makes you happy? What truly makes you happy? And the reason why most people don't think about it is because they don't think that it's possible. When you don't think something's possible, you won't even entertain it. So when she said that, I'm like, you know what? And the thing is that she reminded me of the Maxwell said in that song. I don't know what that song is. When I was child, before I was broken, I couldn't do whatever he says. Something happens to us, man. Something steals our spirit. I don't know if it's the kid that starts painting and he's dope and his dad tells him painting's for sissies and he stops doing it, or the mom tells the daughter that she can't do something that her heart is really in, and you get that wonk, wonk, wonk feeling, and you never pick it up. People watering your weeds instead of watering your seeds, and it defeats us internally, and then we become this combination of other people's choices and decisions, and we resent who we become, but we don't know anything else. I'm speaking of that, man. I'm speaking of all that. And so what she made me see was what the most important thing in life is, which is happiness. And until you know who you are, why you are here, and what is the point of you, what is your purpose, you can't have happiness. It's like you get in your car and you be like, all right, let's go. Your car be like, well, hold on, where are we going? Be like, somewhere. It's like, well, where are we at? Don't worry about all that. It ain't going to go nowhere. You have to have a real view of what a life that you love looks like and what your version of happiness is, because it's tailored to each person. And you can't cheat off anybody's paper. That's why comparison is the mother of anxiety and depression. It ain't about looking at what's going on or what they're doing. Oh, that works. I'm going to do that. Yeah, it's so funny, man. I remember when I was being in the barbershop, right? You know, you hang out in the barbershop. If you're busy, right, people start counting, right? And they'll say, I need to be a barber. Because on the surface, you see people paying cash and you see money moving, right? But what you don't see is the root of that. You don't see the discipline. You don't see the years of skill built up. You don't see the day where 6 people came in 5 minutes before you closed and you were debating on going. You just can't see the roots. It's hard to see the strings. But once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. Once you see the roots, you know you're a fruit factory, right? So it's about the pursuit of happiness, man. It's about finding your bliss. It's about us being authentically who we are, so we don't have to carry anything extra. I always say, whatever you know, you'll never have to remember, because you won't forget it because you understand it. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is merely potential power. I gave you the story. Boom. So you've pictured this. Picture the scene, right? Dude's hunting in the woods, right? He sees the deer. He's like, oh, got him. Right? He raises his gun. He aims, and then he throws the gun at the deer. He had the knowledge. He had the tool. He had the potential. Knowledge is power. No, it's not. But he didn't have the application. So we're bridging mommy and daddy together to make the perfect family. Content, context, mommy, daddy come together to make the perfect body and family of information and perspective, squirrel vision, right? Seeing it for what it really is. And the reason why people can't do it is because they're ignorant. If you knew better, you'd do better. You don't know what you don't know. And because you lack perspective, right? And so this is what I want to talk about on the podcast. This is what I want to help people. But to tie out the inspiration is that when my daughter said that, it changed the way that I looked at everything. I had an employee that worked for me for a while, and, you know, I groomed this person and, you know, trained them and kind of taught them, and she quit. And I used to do when I was conscious, I would want to do an exit interview, especially if I felt like the person was a quality person, right? Hiring and firing people, being in a situation where you have a relationship with people as employees will also teach you a lot about human nature. So boom. When she left, I asked her, I said, I'm going to tie this into my daughter. I asked her, I said, is there anything that we could have done to make this a better situation? Everything ain't for everybody. Sometimes it's seasons, reasons. It ain't, you know, there's reasons for stuff. And she said, you know, I got to the point where I didn't like coming to work. Now, I'm like, You gotta understand, I'm from a different time. I'm from it doesn't matter. You don't gotta like it. You just gotta get it done. I'm from that time. See, but these new jacks, these 19, 20-year-old kids, they live in a different world. They've seen their parents live a lie and tell them you gotta go to school and get a good job and da-da-da-da, and then watch you get downsized and now you're driving for Uber Eats. And like, that ain't work. So the younger generation, it's important to them to be happy and to have fun. Older people think you got to do what you got to do only. You know what I'm saying? So when she was like, I want to be happy and I want to feel good about what I'm doing, in that moment, I looked over in my mind and I saw my daughter wink at me. I was like, you know what? I didn't tell her this. She didn't realize she just put in motion a whole nother thing. And I was like, you know what? You're right. What are we doing if it ain't about being happy? And I happen to know and believe that the height of happiness comes from fulfilling your highest purpose, your calling. And everyone is different. And how I know that that's the truth is I'm going to flip that happiness coin over. And let's look at the other side of that coin, because I ain't never seen a one-sided coin. The other side of bliss and pursuit of happiness is depression, right? And I'm very familiar with depression. Let me tell you what depression is. Depression is knowing in your heart of hearts that you're not living up to your potential. And maybe even deeper, not knowing what to do about it, how to do it, or where to start. This is the soil, this is the stage for the depression performance. I know I'm underliving my life. I know I got a lot more in me. I'm playing it real safe. I'm not taking no chances because I don't really believe in myself. I deal with fear more than I deal with faith. And I worry a lot, which is negative goal setting and prophesizing. And because of this spiral, I feel bad because my soul knows that truth. So we're connecting dots, we're refining, we're defining, we're reassigning the dots, and we're numbering them and connecting them to create the picture that is the life that we love. And we're building poles over here, but we're building custom poles because you might not want to fish for the same fish as the next person. But when you understand these principles, these concepts, you'll be able to apply them to your life and you'll be able to make it happen. And here's why it's important to me. It's important to me because I want to live in a happy world on the low. I don't want people all confused, chasing the Joneses, don't know what they're about, why they're doing stuff. That's annoying. It's annoying to me personally. I want people to live in their truths, and I want to help people live in their truth. And that requires authenticity. It requires vulnerability, and it requires taking a stand. And so that's the legacy that I want to create. And so the podcast came out of setting a vibe and attracting a tribe, creating an environment where we could, a safe space where we can learn and grow in peace and apply these principles to our lives, man. I want to be happy. I want people to be happy. I want people to see things that it ain't what you're looking at, it's how you're looking at it, and you can change the way that you're looking at it, which means you can change what you're looking at and drive that message home. So that's what it is. That's the podcast. This is the first episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Podcast with Dallas Maxwell on YouTube. The podcast is on Spotify and what's Apple? Whatever the hell Apple does. On there too. If you like, subscribe. If you feel you know somebody from the tribe that might appreciate the vibe, go on ahead and share it with them. I appreciate that. My goal is to get 1,000 subscribers, downloads by January 1st. So if you feel it, hang out with me, spread the word. And on that note, I appreciate y'all for sharing some energy with me, hanging out with me. It means a lot. You know, they say time is money. It's not. Ask a dude that did 10 years in prison that hasn't seen his kid. Wherever the time is money, you can always make more money. You can't get your time back. So I really appreciate and honor you for sharing your life with me, because life is time at the end of the day. And so that's what it is. Please subscribe to the channel. Like I said, if you know anybody that might feel the vibe, send it to them. And on that note, I appreciate y'all for watching. I'm Dallas Maxwell, and I'm outro.